Have you ever shared a brilliant idea with a friend only to have them shoot it down without a second thought? Or maybe you presented rock solid evidence and they just dug in their heels deeper? Chances are you've had a run in with the fragile ego. In this video, we're diving deep into the science of why people resist information that challenges their sense of self and how you can become a master communicator by learning how to navigate this tricky terrain. The fragile ego is like your brain's overprotective bodyguard. It's always on high alert, ready to jump in and protect your self image from any perceived threats, even if that means distorting reality. To protect us from experiencing pain, the fragile ego will misremember facts, convince us that experts don't know what they're talking about, and cling to any shred of information that confirms we're just as smart, motivated, caring, and wonderful as we already think we are. Anything that challenges our existing view of ourself is seen as a threat and it's immediately neutralized. So, what kind of mental judo is the ego using to fend off these threats? Motivated reasoning is the cognitive contortionism that our ego goes through to protect our beliefs about who we are. In a classic study by Ziva Kunda, the researchers presented people with fictitious data suggesting that drinking coffee is not good for you. Interestingly, they found people who see being a heavy coffee drinker as part of their identity were much more resistant to the information than people who are light coffee drinkers. It's like their brain was jumping in and telling them, you don't have to believe this evidence. Those researchers don't know what they're talking about. This study is bogus. The thing is, we're all susceptible to this. We're much more likely to accept information that aligns with how we already think about ourselves and reject information that challenges our choices, attitudes, and behaviors. But the ego's bag of tricks doesn't stop there. Picture this. You ace a test and you think to yourself, I'm a total genius. Now picture you bomb the same test. You might find yourself saying, that test was unfair. Welcome to the self-serving bias. This is the ego's way of taking credit for successes and dodging the blame for failures. A meta-analysis of over 250 different studies found evidence for this bias across ages, genders, and cultures. It's like all of us, no matter who we are, have this little publicist in our head that is constantly spinning the narrative in our favor. Oh, that mistake, that wasn't your fault. Oh, that you did a great job there. So how does this play out in the wild world of communication? Imagine you're trying to convince your friend to start exercising and you've got all the benefits lined up. More energy, better health, some quality bonding time for us together, but they're just not biting. Oh, I just don't have any time, they say, or oh, I really don't like gyms. What's really happening here is your suggestions are triggering their fragile ego's alarm bells. Maybe they pride themselves on being spontaneous and a workout routine feels like it would cramp their style. Maybe the idea of huffing and puffing in public feels like it would make them self-conscious. Whatever the specifics are, your suggestion doesn't feel aligned with their view of how they see themselves, and so their ego is resisting it. So, how do you get someone's ego to relax a little bit and consider a new idea? Before you deliver any message to someone that could be potentially threatening to their ego, take a moment to affirm some of their positive qualities. I can see that you're a really independent person. Wow, you really care about and value time with your family. Research by Jeffrey Cohen and colleagues has found that students who were affirmed before receiving critical feedback were much more likely to accept the feedback and learn from it. Before you present information that's going to conflict with their identity, you're strengthening it and bolstering their identity a little bit, and that's going to make your message more likely to get through. And interestingly, affirmation isn't always a one-way street. You can also ask questions that encourage people to affirm themselves. Before a hard conversation, try asking the other person questions that encourage them to reflect on their values and strengths. What accomplishments are you most proud of? What principles guide your life? By getting them to mentally affirm the things that they like about themselves, you're strengthening their ego. Studies have found that this simple exercise makes people more open to health warnings, less defensive in the face of political arguments, and more receptive to constructive criticism. Beyond affirmation, another powerful tool for navigating the ego is perspective taking. Want to open somebody's mind to a new idea? Try asking them to walk a mental mile in somebody else's shoes. Encourage them to consider the situation from a different angle. Instead of asking someone to explain their position or explain why they believe what they believe, ask them to consider what other people might believe. You might ask, what do you think are the main concerns of people on the other side of this issue? Research suggests this kind of mental stretching can lead to more nuanced thinking, less polarization, and a greater willingness to compromise. It's kind of like yoga for the ego. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it leads to greater flexibility in the long run. But perhaps the most impactful thing we can do to navigate the fragile ego is to model openness ourselves. Here's a hard truth. If we want other people to be more open to our ideas, we have to be open to theirs too. That means admitting when we're uncertain, being willing to consider other viewpoints, and even changing our mind when we're presented with evidence that suggests we might be wrong. When we model this kind of intellectual humility, we create a space that makes it safe for other people to do the same. Organizational psychologists have found that when leaders show an openness to accept feedback and to learn from their mistakes, it creates a culture of psychological safety and innovation. So, if you want to have more open conversations, start by examining your own defensiveness. Be the change you want to see in your communication. So, there you have it, your science-backed guide to navigating the complex landscape of the fragile ego. By understanding the defensive mechanisms of motivated reasoning and the self-serving bias, and by employing strategies like affirmation, self-affirmation, perspective taking, and leading by example, you can become a master of productive dialogue. Remember, behind every defensive reaction is a human being trying to protect their sense of self-worth. Approach these defenses with empathy and skill, and you'll be amazed at the conversations that unfold. If you found this helpful, please give the video a like and subscribe for more cutting-edge insights into the art and science of effective communication. Until next time, keep building those ego bridges and opening those minds.